Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and this is Tuesday. So, of course, we're talking about Level Up Advanced 5th Edition from ENWorld. It is one of a number of uh, Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition clones, asides. There are a number of projects being created and more on the horizon. Of course, we have Black Flag slash Tales of the Valiant from Cobalt Press coming to the forefront. We also have, of course, from fifth edition itself, the now no longer called One D&D update to fifth edition itself, as well as MCDM, and wow, there's another one. Oh, Critical Role is also rolling out theirs, but for some strange reason, Level Up A5E, uh, despite it already existing, isn't getting a lot of attention. So, and of course, I was part of the design team for the Trials and Treasures book. So I was like, well, why don't we do this on a weekly basis and take a look at something? So we're taking a look at an entry or a number of entries from the A5E series, and the book is called The Monstrous Menagerie. There are links down below in the doobly doo. And the Monstrous Menagerie is the monster book. And I thought we would take a little bit of a delve into like why like Sly Flourish and a number of people really like this book and what makes it different from a standard like monster manual or even a monster book from um, any other source. So right here we have the Manticore. Now, from the from the top down, Level Up A5E was rewritten. So all the math, all the encounter building, all of that is new. It was the math was redone, so now the math is linear. So creatures of their particular CR level hit at the appropriate level that they are. Now there are some spikes and dips, like there's certain monsters that might be physically weak, say like a shadow, but they strike really hard with some other ability, and so that was taken into account as well. But overall, the math there, uh, according to their CR level, has been um, turned into a far greater linear progression than like a strange spiky bell curve that fifth edition has. Everyone has from its inception has said that the encounter building uh, ability in fifth edition kind of is a booty, kind of sucks. So it was redone. Also, we're going to take a look at some features that are given to every single entry in this monster book that helps the narrator create their world and allow this any encounter with any monster to be far more organic, and gives you a lot of tools to use when you're stuck when the PCs make a left turn and you do the face smack and go do a don't. Oh no, what are they going to do? I designed everything for the on the right side and they're going left. So what do we have? We have a lot of tools and things. So here we have the Manticore, and the Manticore is a legendary and uh, a mythological popular creature, humanoid headed creature with a feline body, wings, and a spiky tail, kind of monstrous and such. And so when we take a look over to the very left over here, we have basically all the fluff that you need. If you're unfamiliar with the creature, or you need a reminder, or you're new to the game, here are some bits and pieces, some information you can have to go. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I know. I can put this creature in my um, I don't know, volcanic destroyed land, or maybe this is more appropriate in a swamp or something of that nature, and then gives you a little bit of their behavior and whatnot. So a little bit of that fluff. This one before the Manticore says savage raconteurs and unwitting servants. So for savage, I don't even know. I've never even heard that word. Raconteurs. Anyway, manticores consider themselves excellent conversationalists and genuinely enjoy chatting with other creatures, which means that you could use this creature in a social encounter as well. Manticore will often forego attacking so long as it remains engaged in conversation. Unfortunately, manticores are not nearly as witty as they believe themselves to be. Often, travelers must engage a manticore to avoid suffering another of the monster's long-winded anecdotes, which is kind of funny. So maybe the PCs are just like, okay, we don't want to fight it, but we want to have a conversation, but we also don't want to make it seem like it's dumb because it might get really offended by our intellect or something. And maybe the manticore has offers unwittingly offers some bits and pieces of information. So that's basically a story element. Also, they're considered unwitting servants. Manticores are too proud to serve others, but too dim-witted to recognize when they are being manipulated. Evil creatures such as hags or lamias sometimes trick manticores into serving them by offering them tributes of treasure or food. Such alliances fall apart if the talkative creatures are neglected or if the duplicitous nature of their master is revealed, which maybe by accident the manticore um, can be convinced to turn to the PC side, if for no other reason to get revenge on the hey, that hag tricked me, kind of thing. The N King says, I agree with that. I'm an amateur DM and almost killed my players by following the CR. Yeah, good times. Yeah, yeah. See, we, too many times have we seen that, like, the CR balance or math just isn't right. So the math has been redone from the ground up, and like including notations like, oh, I don't know what the math is. I didn't work on it, but I know that they did the math. So I believe the math turned out to be like 7.5 points of damage per CR level and multiplied up, and then modified slightly by how many attacks it has, some of its defenses, and some of its other special abilities. Yeah. Yeah, the Manticore sound like they're trying to be brass dragons, but just aren't on that level. Yeah, they're trying to be brass asses, but they aren't that badass to be brass dragons, right? Yeah, it's that was a Freudian slip on purpose. But yeah, yeah. Listen, we have people in our real life that are like that, right? People you talk to, and you just roll your eyes. Some of those coworkers that are just like, "Oh, here they go again." Okay, so I'm going down the line, and mind you, I'm going to show you some other creatures, but we have underneath that we have legends and lore. So the next part of the aspect of every creature entry is legends and and it always starts out with a history check. Characters can learn the following. Sometimes history in nature is with maybe religion or arcana, survival even, and it gives the player characters as they travel along, because exploration is a big part of A5E. They might learn uh, little bits of knowledge, usually something very simple all the way to something very nearly impossible to learn unless you are very knowledgeable, or you find somebody who can help the player characters out, or they travel around, gain some kind of expertise by traveling, and then they learn these details. So, for example, under a DC 10 check, manticores have bodies of lions, humanoid faces, dragon like wings, and spike tipped tails. They'll eat anything that moves but prefer humanoids. Pretty simple. Under DC 15, a manticore can fling the spikes on its tail like an archer fires arrows. And under DC 20, no matter how hungry it is, a manticore would rather talk than fight. Peacefully ending a conversation with a manticore, however, requires a silver tongue, which means basically the manticore wants to live just like every other living creature out there, and that's kind of cool. And it kind of gives you, especially if you make that DC 20 check, you could, as players, I mean, as the narrator, you could have the players make one check, and depending on how high the roll is, they or learn all that information. Like if they roll 20 or more, maybe that information is spread across the countryside. They encounter refugees or nomads or people encamping or maybe even harmed and fleeing from such a creature, and they give out that information. Or it could be a gift that the players earn. Mm, 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 mm. Oh, let me go back here. Manticore encounters. Under each creature, there is a calculated CR level already created for you based on bits of their own lore and behavior. So, under each of the creatures, like for example, it says while manticores can be found anywhere, they prefer warm climates. And then it says CR 3 to 4, a manticore or an adamanticore, which is a variation, an adamanticore. And then under CR 5 to 10, you get 2 or 3 manticores or adamanticores, or you have a manticore with a chimera. And then there's a little bit of treasure, 300 gold pieces, battered half plate armor, potion of superior healing, medallion of thoughts. So we even have a little bit of treasure and a kind of pre-made ish encounter based on the CR level that you're looking for. And that could be based on the party level. So now this, of course, is a manticore. It's small. There are some creatures that have a more extensive stretch, from like a single goblin to goblin armies or something like that. But you'll see this under every single monster encounter. Um, we have ourselves signs. So under signs, uh, you can either roll or pick any of these. It's a number of them, and instead of the player characters and the narrator going, "Oh, random encounter. You turn the corner, you see Manticore." That's not very organic, and it's not very interesting either. So instead, you can drop a number of these signs in as the player characters travel, and you'll travel through your world. Now, some of these signs on purpose are the same signs as other creatures. I couldn't tell you which ones duplicate other signs, but the point is that the players may learn to look for specific signs, as well as maybe trick themselves that these signs might be related to other signs of other creatures. And over time, when they see these signs, they're like, "Oh, there must be manticores nearby." So signs include strange, bony spikes litter their path. A humanoid corpse mauled and riddled with bony spikes, a distant roar, or lion footprints that abruptly disappear. Right now, the lion footprints that abruptly disappear, they might be thinking like, "Okay, well, wait a minute, is that a displacer beast? Is that a saber-toothed tiger? Did something happen? Is it maybe it's a were creature or something, right? Were tigers or whatever." And so they might mistakenly think that one sign is for another, but this also gets rid of the the narrator doing like the gotchas. Instead the PCs are given some kind of hint as to what the heck's going on. If the PCs assume that a humanoid corpse that's mauled and riddled with spikes might be from, I don't know, the spikes might be from a war party or something, and not understand that it's from a beast, that's up to them. But it just gives you a little bit of, it gives the narrator a little bit of extra, along with their the next part, which is their behavior. And so we have behaviors listed here as well, such as attacks on sight, or demands surrender and tribute, or in its it's in its nest or lair, or patrolling for an evil master or a manticore pride, which might be pretty nasty. If it's looking for a manticore pride, that means that there's plenty more out there. So if the player characters are, say, lower level, and they have a discussion with it, or they see it searching, they're like, "Ooh, there's one. There's probably more on the horizon," right? And then lastly, not lastly, but this little section here, we have manticore names. So a lot of the sentient monsters, there's even some names down here, because the minute a PC asks for a name, how many times have we been stuck like, "Oh, I don't know any names. I didn't come up with anything," right? And that's usually the issue. So the Ed King says, a dedicated signs section. That's being very kind to the ranger in the party. Hell yeah, the ranger, the druid, um, just inquisitive player characters. Like, also, it's it's far better, I feel, in role playing games to foreshadow what's going to happen next. Now, the player characters, if your players don't pick up on it, that's fine. but to let them know that this creature exists in your world, even if the players are like, hey, it gives them the opportunity to say, hey, listen, we know there's a Manticore. We don't want to involve ourselves with it. We don't even want to have a conversation with them because it's going to take too long. Um, we're just going to go around it. At least they know. Mm-mm-mm. Sorry, little cotton mouth. Um, then King says, "Oh wow, and Manticore names is a really cool addition. That's especially cool for new DMs who maybe don't know much Manticore lore. Also, how many times have I know I've been put on the spot by having to come up with some random name for some NPC or something like that, and s- there's a switch I believe in our brains subconscious that when we name a thing, it takes on a life of its own. It's not just a flower, rose by any other name, right? It's not just a flower, it's a rose. It's not just a manticore, it's what are some of the names down here? Agira or um Baxandrimus or Cleomedes or Hagarod, you know, Neropa or Vizan Vizandanterer. I don't know. Um, but you know what I mean? Like, and heck, even the Manticore themselves is just like the PCs are trying to repeat the name, and the Manticore is like taking long. No, it's pronounced Vizandanterer. No, Vizant. No, 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 no. Come here. It's Vizandant. No, 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 no. Accent on the Vizandanterer. Visit. Roll the tongue. 35 minutes later, the PCs are just like rolling their eyes, like, I said it right already. It would be hilarious. Okay. All right. So that's all that section. Um, the End Kings, yeah, he's like being put on the spot like that is how you get dragons named Philip or whatever. Yep. The most common, obnoxiously, the, the orc chieftain is named Bob, right? You get in those kind of conversations, and you're just rolling your eyes like, oh man, I just ruined it. And of course, the minute you say something like that, your players are just going to like just have a field day with fun. All right, so now we're going to get into the actual mechanical features and some of the hidden bits and baubles that are in all of the monsters that make this a little bit different. So, of course, we got our Manticore name. It's a large monstrosity, so you get its size. You have its challenge rating of 3 and your XP level. Okay, we've seen that before. Right up front, we get to see what it is, that kind of thing. Now we get our armor class as we go down here, and I should actually increase this. There we go. Ah, sorry. All right, so here we have, let me move this away from my face over to the left side. All right. There is under every creature you're going to see something here, and it's going to be called the bloodied condition. So you have your hit points. If you want to roll randomly for its hit point level, you can go roll high or low. This is 8d10 plus 24, and with the hit points of 68, it is bloodied at 34. The bloody condition happens when the monster or creature or NPC of choice gets to half its hit points, and it now has the bloody condition. The bloody condition, it, it had to be placed somewhere, and the bloody condition isn't really a condition in the classic sense of like being paralyzed or prone or stunned. It's basically a um, it's to let the players, you as the narrator, and the creature itself to know that it's basically halfway done, and it, it's a way for you as the narrator to alert the player characters about how successful they are. or not successful, right? Oh man, this creature is bloodied. You can use that exact term, or you could say it's really, you can describe how injured or dismayed or wounded the creature is when it's at half its level. And while there's no specified mechanical feature, a lot of the monsters in the book either have an ability that they lose when they're bloodied, they either gain an ability when they reach the bloodied condition, like maybe they get more aggressive, or they double down on their attacks, and or you will see that there's a combat section which may say like, "Hey, listen, the creature is going to do perform these particular types of actions or behaviors, but when it gets bloodied, it changes its resolve. It changes what it's going to do, or it might parlay, it may run, it may become more aggressive and things like that. And in a way, it's basically a one word method of morale. Instead of having a morale system back in the OSR where you would roll dice and see if the creature would run or turn tail or whatever, the bloody condition basically is like, it allows you to role play. Uh, it is a word that lets us know that here's the time that we really need to role play this monster. And if they're a sentient monster, as mentioned in the lore of the creature, hey, maybe the creature's going to say, all right, okay, okay, stop, 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 right? I'll give you my treasure if you just leave me alone, or I'll take you to my master, or maybe it just turns tail and and runs away or something like that. Though of course, we have all of our speeds, um, ground speed, fly speed, all of our stats and their modifiers, proficiency bonus, and right next to proficiency, we have maneuver DC. In A5E, there are martial maneuvers, and martial maneuvers are like combat maneuvers that kind of are in parity to spell-like effects, but for martial characters, they are non-magical, but it's like special abilities for um, martial combatants, and every creature has a maneuver DC that is used with those martial maneuvers. Of course, we have our senses, passive perception, languages, and then we go into our other features. Uh, of course, I did that. Sorry. I'm not smart. I am dumb. I'll use this. Hey, Manticore. I kind of like a splatterpunk type art. I like that. Okay, so before I get back into the chat with our co-host here, we do have our actions, and you'll see under a number of these monsters, under actions, we will also have actions, and then you'll see some creatures have bonus actions and reactions, so they are separated out. So, one issue with initiative in fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons is that more often than not, player characters get initiative, and then what they do is they go Nova. You get four-player characters, they go first, they go absolutely Nova on your creatures, they easily win, and the combat is done. But every once in a while, there's a time where the creatures can react or have a bonus action that allows them to do a thing, maybe to interrupt what somebody else is doing. And so reactions are also noted, and if you are a savvy narrator, you and depending on what you have at your table, maybe a reaction can interrupt what a player character is doing to allow the creature to be a little bit more dynamic. So under actions, they have multi attack. The Manticore attacks with his bite and his claws, and of course we have our bite, our claw, and we have an additional tail and tail spike volley. And under multi attack with his bite and claws, of course you can substitute and or add these additional attacks if you want to make it additionally more dangerous. I wouldn't suggest allowing it to bite, claw, tail, and spike volley all at the same time. But if you want to make it a little bit more dangerous, you can, and it has some options there. And then we have our reaction, which is a tail whip. Um, and it gets to do a bunch of different things with it. For example, under the tail whip reaction, if a creature the Manticore can see hits it with a melee attack, the Manticore attacks the attacker with its tail. If it hits, it can fly up to half its fly speed without provoking opportunity attacks from the attacker. So basically, it's like not only if you hit it, not only can it whip its tail, but it's like a get away from me kind of thing. Like whips it the tail past you, smacks the PC, and then gets to fly away. Also, we have here under combat basically like, well, what kind of tactics will it do, or what does it have in combat? And it says the Manticore fires a tail spike volley from a distance, preferably from the air. It then flies past an opponent, attacking with its tail from 10 feet away to avoid opportunity attacks. Finally, it charges at least 20 feet and attacks with its claws and bite. If bloodied, and here we go with that bloodied thing, um, it falls back, bloody condition. If bloodied, it falls back and uses the rest of its tail spikes. It flees only if its tail spike volleys have been depleted. See, so it gives you a little bit of, hey, here are its um, tactics. Here's how it acts in combat, and it's a great thing to fall back on. And of course, you can use this any way you want to, right? Like your specific Manticore in your game doesn't need to be this way, but there is a basis for the players to act. All right, so the End King says, yeah, in 5e, excuse me, in 5e, monsters have to be, Batman villains and have rooms of mooks. Yeah, I like reactions. It lets an enemy potentially shine on its own. Exactly. Because in order to have monsters in 5e, you can't have one against four, one against five, right? That just the math just doesn't work. They just go nova. So instead, to let the monsters punch a little bit. They're a little bit tougher. The math is a little bit more dangerous. Like I said, the math has been redone from the ground up, so it lets them punch a little bit harder for their CR levels to remain in parity with the player characters, and the reactions and some of the bonus actions allow them to like it. It also teaches the player characters like, hey, when I stab this thing with my spear and its tail whips around, I'm going to need to be more careful. Mike Maris is hi from the UK. Just to say, uh, just ordered your level up 5e book. Greatly looking forward to it. Keep up the good work. It's not my book. I appreciate that. You need to look. You don't need to look across the pond. You can just look around the corner because ENWorld is a British Euro company. So yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Hey, what's M? All right, so let's get back into the monster or other monsters here. So bup, 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 bup. There are a number of variants of monsters in the Monstrous Menagerie book. So for in this one, there's an adamanticore. Um, so yeah, adding to their strangeness, some manticores grow tail spikes made of adamantine rather than bone. A single manticore might possess up to 2 dozen of the adamantine spikes, each of which can be sold for 5 gold pieces or more. The Adamanticore is a CR4 and has 85 hit points, bloodied at 42. A creature that takes damage from the adamant, Adamanticore's tail spike volley suffers 5 or 1d10 ongoing damage from blood loss. The ongoing damage lasts until a creature uses an action to remove the spikes. So, and a lot of the creatures, not all of them, but a lot of the creatures have variations. So here we go. We're going to page down to the Medusa. Medusa is very similar. We have the Medusa. We have all the lore on at the very beginning, such as she's a queen mother, statues of salt and bronze. Um, for example, here's a great one that I love. I love this idea. Let me move this up a little bit. Actually, you know what? Let's zoom in. All right, so we're talking about the Medusa here. And I love this part. Statues of salt and bronze. It's said that each of Queen Medusa's original companions petrified their victims into a different substance. The few Medusas that survived their dying god's wrath passed on their own forms of his curse. Thus, some Medusas gazes petrified creatures into statues of salt, bronze, marble, coral, silver, and so on. In any case, the process of removing the petrification is the same. And I love this. It's very flavorful because maybe the player characters in your world, maybe a Medusa turns someone into jade or into um, sand or other kinds of minerals, or not even that. Maybe, like for example, they have salt and coral. So yes, salt is a mineral, but it could be anything. It could be um, diamond, jade, amethyst. If you want to go mineralistic, maybe you want to switch it out a little bit differently into turning them into lifelike trees or paintings or something. Like, you could go really far with that. And I like the idea that each Medusa could have their own, or each families of Medusas could have their own specialized petrification outcome, which might make it a little bit more dangerous for the player characters to navigate. Like if maybe a player turns into crystal, which might make them very delicate, so you don't want to shatter their bodies or something. Or if they're turned into solid iron, it's very difficult to move them. Mm-mm. The Yanking says, I feel like you could strike up a business deal with the Adamanticore. Yeah. And then you've got a slow way to get some grade A weapons and armor. Yep. Hey, I'll trade you some tail spikes for some tasty hacked up goblin meat. And the Manticore's like, oh, the Adamanticore's like, get me 5 goblins and I'll trade you some spikes, right? Deadman says ENWorld's headquarters are located in Tokyo, Japan. Are they? Well, it's online, so yeah, it could be anywhere. But Yan King says that's just another island like England. Yep. The Yan King says you could have a pollution Medusa who turns people into plastic or something. Thereby, it exists in this fantasy world. Ooh, yeah, you want to get a little techno? Yeah, I turn you. I gaze at the Medusa and I'm turned into garbage, toxic waste or something. I don't know. That's not really petrified, but I don't know. You could be turned into graffiti if you want to get a little bit a little bit of cyberpunkish in there. But yeah. And dealing with ENWorld, it was a little bit difficult because of the time changes and such. But that's just a hazard of doing such a thing. All right, so um, Medusa's very quickly. We've got legends and lore, Arcana and history check. Again, here we got a little bit of a change. Under DC 10, Medusas have writhing serpents in place of hair. A creature that meets a Medusa's gaze turns to stone. Very simple. DC 15, only powerful divine magic can restore a creature petrified by a Medusa's gaze. And then DC 20, a Medusa that sees its own reflection might inadvertently petrify itself. And of course, today, in our own, I mean, Medusas are a mythological creature, so we know about the mythological nature of Medusas. But there might be some other creatures that new players, or even someone like myself, has no idea about, like Grix and Vrox and things like that. Okay, so here we have pre-made Medusa encounters. So, feared and hunted to near extinction, Medusas live isolated lives in forgotten places of the world, ancient ruins, deep caverns, or high mountaintops. And we have ourselves pre-made encounter. So we have a CR 5 to 10 encounter right here for Medusa along with his treasure. And so we either have a Medusa, a single Medusa, or a Medusa with a basilisk, a gelatinous cube. We either have a single Medusa or a Medusa with either a basilisk, gelatinous cube, or walking statue. Or we have a Medusa with 1 to 3 cockatrices, grimlocks, or gargoyles. And so it's already pre-made. And then you can come up with, like, why are they around? Like, did the Medusa befriend them and are they under the Medusa's control? and are they allies? Is the Medusa, for example, like the Medusa with the gelatinous cube, is the Medusa just living there, and whenever she turns her enemies into something, she just dumps them in the gelatinous cube that just happens to be nearby? Um, is the walking statue the Medusa's former lover that she's trying to find a cure for, but the walking statue is still alive and is given enough? Is their love is so strong that it's able to become ambulatory, but she still wants to turn them back into human, but is afraid, or like you could come up with all kinds of weird story ideas with that. And of course, gargoyles are made of stone. Grimlocks are blind, so they can't be turned to stone because they can't see the Medusa. Um, and of course, basilisks and cockatrices turn things to petrify things as well. And then, of course, we have some treasure: 100 gold pieces, 400 petrified gold pieces on petrified statues, which is kind of funny. A gold snake bracelet and boots of levitation. And then we have here's a much tougher uh, encounter where we have CR 11 and 16. It's either two Medusas, a Medusa with a Cyclops, Earth Elemental Gorgon, or a Stone Giant, or a Bronze Queen, which is located, it's a variation of a Medusa. And then we have a lot of treasure, gold pieces, 800. Ooh, Electrum pieces. We were just talking about Electrum pieces. I didn't realize they were included in here. Maybe I should read this book. Aquamarine pendant, five skillful faceless portraits, marvelous pigments, and a +2 shield that's mirrored. This is kind of cool because maybe she took it off of maybe the Medusa killed past adventurers and took it from them. Maybe the player character can sneak around and find this mirrored shield and use it to their advantage or something. All right, let's get into what you guys have to say. Boop, boop, boop. Let's see. The End King says, I noticed I haven't seen any mention of creatures' alignments. So this Medusa doesn't have to kill the PCs according to the book. Smart. No, alignment has been removed. And listen, we all know alignment, the only thing alignment's good for is about a 45-minute argument about morality and ethics. And that's all it's really good for. Is gaming. Alignment, even back in the day, wasn't very useful anyway, and was more punishment. It was more stick than carrot anyway. So, no, alignment has been removed for all of the creatures. So they have behaviors, but not alignment. So you can make Medusas act in any way you want in your world for any reason. Are Medusas in your world cursed beings that were very beautiful, that divine creatures in your world did this to them and they're just pissed off? Are they is this a reflection of their evil? How do they breed in the first place or come about? That's up to you. And honestly, you could create plenty of nuance. Like uh, evil people are only evil in the eye of the beholder, because most people feel like they're the hero of their own story. So yeah, no alignments. Deadman says turned into graffiti, like the game Sideways, a side scroller where you play as a graffiti doodle and you have to get across the terrain and can make changes to the environment. I forgot about that game. Yeah. I don't, yes. No, but yes. I was thinking cyberpunk or something, but no, maybe. I turn you into a painting, and the Medusa's like a fine artist looking for the most beautiful art, and if she can find the one true piece of art, she could release her curse or something. I don't know. Electrum, that's what I call continuity. Yeah. For those who don't know, this is taking place during John Wick week, and I was making an analogy of Electrum pieces in Dungeons and Dragons versus the gold coins in the John Wick universe. So yeah, that's what I was thinking of, like oil paintings and stuff. Yeah. And the Medusa is very cordial, talkative, social. Maybe the Medusa knows absolutely what she does to people and doesn't want to do that to the PCs. if they can find a cure, or you know get her what she wants. Maybe she relishes it, like, yeah, I used to be the most beautiful, but now I'm cursed or something. Or maybe she's like, I've ascended. Of course I could turn you into one of my oil paintings or something, um maybe she's on the payroll of some nobles that are turning some of the nobles into statues, so that they can this is their form of immortality. um but maybe an assassin killed the person who's able to turn the nobles back to human, and now the Medusa is like, I need your help. The nobles are stone or jade, or I don't know, amethyst or something, and I need to get them back because I need to get paid. Anyway, so okay, here we go. We have Medusa signs. You gotta have some signs for Medusas. We all know the classic signs, but let's see what we have here. We have realistic stone statues of warriors in action poses. Listen, we've always seen that, right? The statue that looks a little bit too human. What else do we have? What first appear to be minotaur or troll guards are in fact painted statues. There are two massive statues, 30 feet tall, maybe a farm. And mind you, we often think of humans, most of Dungeons and Dragons is very humanistic, but many monsters are in conflict with other monsters. So a minotaur or troll, or two massive statues that are 30 feet tall, meaning giants, might have had some conflict with a Medusa, and maybe she moved into their haven and turned them to stone, or they went against her, or they were her allies and went to turn, or maybe it was by accident or something. So not just humans, but we got, and which also makes you think, well, minotaurs or trolls or giants were turned to stone. Are there more of them around here while we hunt down the Medusa, or vice versa? We're in a location filled with trolls, which might have been turned to stone, which means we have even more trouble. Also, we have a farm on which all the animals wear blindfolds. That's pretty interesting. A statue of a beautiful woman with snake hair, which is funny, and a DC perception check, distant hissing. Yeah. DC 15 perception check, distant hissing. Okay, now down in here, wilderness behavior. You're going to see there's wilderness and city behavior. So under wilderness behavior, we have with blindfolded eyes and blind sense out to distant 30 feet, with blindfolded eyes and blind sense out to 30 feet sculpting. So this may be an individual you may see that's got blindfolded eyes and is sculpting something, or maybe the Medusa is like looking for a beautiful specimen for its statue garden. Ugly people are allowed to pass, which is hilarious. Uh, go by, ugly people. Is that a backwards compliment to a PC? Maybe she's lying in she could be a he, lying in ambush, or weeping near an accidentally petrified friend, or veiled sitting on an ancient throne that looks like a coiled cobra demands tribute. Could be staring at a portrait, brooding over tragic memories, hunting a dangerous and evil human, possibly an archmage or an assassin, and then singing, "Will spare anyone who joins in." And those are kind of that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool, different. And of course, those behaviors when you meet the Medusa are lead to questions, right, in our heads as to why is the Medusa acting this way in the first place, which may make the of course it eliminates alignment, right? If the Medusa is crying because of accidentally turning a loved one or a family member or something, or what have you. So yeah, I was thinking of Dory. Hey, dead man, thank you. You look, say, I don't know if you can see me in the corner. I'm like, we're on the same path there. Yeah, Dorian Gray had a painting of himself that made him immortal. Yeah, the picture of Dorian Gray is a movie. Spoiler alerts for something from, I don't know, the 1950s. I think it was black and white. I think it was a Dorian Gray movie. But yes, it was the idea that the maybe the Medusa has a painting of herself very beautiful, but like the picture of Dorian Gray, the painting could be a reflection of the horrors of herself, maybe, or something. I don't know. Like maybe the picture's so horrific she can't take a look at it any longer, and the PCs need to get her to look and see, look into her own soul. In the picture of Dorian Gray, he was immortal, but the picture was horrific, and the more he, killed people and was decadent, the darker his soul became. And if you destroyed the painting, Dorian Gray would die and stuff. So we don't have to go with paintings, but that's just an idea, right? Mike Marin says a Medusa could make a cool, good defender of a village. They could handle most threats single handedly and live luxuriously as a result. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, a Medusa doesn't need to be a primary threat, right? Like maybe Medusas and Harpies and Manticores are Sphinxes, all the, how do I say, mutated humanoid creatures are failed individuals from, say, wizard schools, for example, or something like that. Like a Medusa is just basically a wizard writ differently. And something else we can do is in our role playing is change the gender. A lot of mythology, usually males are far more bestial and violent. Female, not violent. Maybe that's not the case. They're more physically violent, whereas in mythology, females are far more uh, devious and subtle, but they're just as violent if they catch you. So switching genders on mythological creatures is also a good thing as well, by turning and then of course changing what the Medusa can do, and the Medusa, being in a veil or being behind a wall, like I hate to make the analogy, but like a Catholic priest thing where they're in a chamber that you can talk to them, or maybe the Medusa always wears a heavy cloak and talks through emissaries, and the Medusa might just have loyal people in a village, and it's like you need to come to somebody, you talk to me. Mike Marin says sign a larger number of blind or tremor sense ankhegs, as they are less affected due to their blindness. Oh yeah, M- you can you can make any number of creatures blind if you want to. Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of like purple worms. What are some other things? Heck, just if you're doing an Underdark story, just whatever comes across, you just say that they're blind, and they use tremor sense. Maybe they use tremor sense, blind sense, heightened smell, something like that, right? Deadman says the story of Dorian Gray was first published in 1890. And a lot of those stories were like um, warnings, like anecdotal warnings, like, not to be like, the picture of Dorian Gray was probably a warning not to be too arrogant and not to be too full of yourself and things like that. Yeah, very very narcissistic kind of thing, which really relates to Medusa in the mythology of the Medusa. The Ant King says Narcissus was a Greek man who starved to death staring at a reflection of himself. Ooh, that's right. You could combine that, Dorian Gray and the Medusa, into one interesting character. Oh yeah, I mean, you could make this a whole, like, if you have mythologically, we often think of the Medusa, one creature, one minotaur, one King Midas. But if there's a whole culture of this might be a thing, right? Ankeg nymphs can be blind with tremor sense and spitting acid. Hell's yes. Yeah. And could be using them as like pets or something like that. Yeah. So here under city behavior, we have living as a blind artist. That's kind of cool. Masquerading as an eccentric shut-in, or wearing a wig and half mask, working as a dancer, actor, or assassin, or petrifying a victim in a back alley. So yeah, the Medusa could be, and you could change the name, right? Like the Medusa could be a, a male assassin. You know, can you prove you took out my enemy? Sure. you have a statue, you have a chamber full of your enemies or something, or living as a blind artist in a park somewhere or something. You know what I mean? Or people visiting this eccentric shut-in who may or may not know that they're turning their the individuals that come to them into, and maybe the Medusa is an oracle or um whatever, could be an entertainer or something like that. Again, we have names. Um Aphion, Baeza, um, Calliope, Emrian, Lycena, Thenestra. Exact. So got a bunch of names here, just in case you go. I'm going to throw a random. Maybe this comes up randomly, and you go, I need some more meat on the bone, and then we get to other things. So of course we have all the statistics: name, medium, XP, challenge rating. We have the bloody condition again. We talked about the bloody condition before. Um, its ability, petrifying gaze. We have our actions with the multi attack, snake hair, the long bow. Let me move back up to some of these other actions here. And then we have combat. The Medusa ambushes or otherwise reveals its eyes suddenly so its opponents can't avert their gaze. It makes melee attacks against creatures with averted eyes. When bloodied, it hides if possible, setting up further ambushes. And then we have a variant. Some of these variants are like above when we talked about the ada the Manticore. Other variants are like, how do I explain this? Some of the other variants are specialized, higher powered individuals that are unique. So, for example, under this Medusa Queen, once a leader among the original Medusas, the Bronze Queen lives in a sand-swept palace among the bronze statues of those that have hunted her, defying gods and mortals to punish her further. And so this is kind of like a built-in, like a mini encounter creature that's a bit more dangerous, has maybe more abilities, a little tougher, and of course you could reskin this any way you want to. So this Bronze Queen here is a legendary monster and has a CR 11, has 153 hit points. It has one legendary action it can take at the end of another creature's turn, choosing from the options below. The Medusa Queen regains the spent legendary action at the start of its turn, and of course she can hide. She has snake hair, as a legendary action. She has a frenzy of snakes, and then imperious command. A creature with averted or covered eyes within 60 feet that can hear the Medusa makes a DC 13 Wisdom saving throw. On a failure, it looks at the Medusa, making itself the target of petrifying gaze if it and the Medusa can see each other. On a success, the creature is immune to imperious command for 24 hours. This is a charm effect. So, yeah, definitely would use this, especially against a single opponent. Like, look at me, I command you. And the person's like, no, as their head starts to turn and their eyes open like really wide or something. But yeah. So um that is the Medusa. Let me rank this down a bit because we have other creatures here. Maybe we might go into these, maybe not. But again, all the creatures have all of these things from like, here are methods. We have method encounters, legends and lore, a bunch of the all the way over on the left we have our fluff, we have our method signs, and then we have behaviors from dust methods, ice methods, spark, steam, some names, and their abilities and their actions. And do they have any, see, actions? Let me move down a little further. Actions, combat, all that kind of stuff. So let me leave it here and go back to you guys. Um, an assassin with a sledgehammer to break up the evidence. I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, so um, I guess being a little bit of a salesman on a Monstrous Menagerie. And if you guys have, since we're getting to the end here, if you name a random creature and I can look it up here for you, if you had a question as to its abilities, how it's written up. Let me I'm gonna move let me move back up here to the Medusa and look at some of the numbers here. So for example, let me go back down here. Under snake hair, it's +7 to hit, 1d4, 1d6 +4 damage, plus an additional 7 or 2d6 poison damage, plus an additional 1d6 piercing damage if the target is a creature that is surprised or that can't see the Medusa. So the snake, even the snake hair hits also, it's got a longbow. It does a 1d8 +4 piercing damage, plus an additional 2d6 poison damage. It The Medusa strikes pretty damn hard, irregardless of its petrifying gaze, and that's because it's a challenge 7, and so a lot of the math, 120 hit points at challenge 7, the ability that with its snake hair, it not only just does piercing damage, plus it does poison damage and can do even more piercing damage if you're surprised or you're not looking at it, looking at him, her, or it. Yeah, pretty damn dangerous. A lot of these creatures hit very, very hard. Let me see if I can, or maybe you could even claim that it hits appropriately. So the Manticore is a challenge rating 3, and it has a bite that does 1d6 +3 piercing damage. It's got claws that do 2d4 +3 slashing damage. It's got a tail attack, d8 +3, and then it has a spiked volley taking 4d6 piercing damage on a failure or half on a success. So the tail spikes are pretty damn dangerous. When it gets into close combat, maybe not as dangerous, but it can strike a lot of different individuals or focus them on one player character. So yeah, back into you guys and then kind of in this. Got any owlbear variants? Okay, I'll take a look. I'll look that up. And yes, we do. Yeah, yeah, Mike. The King says, I like how this is organized in general. Everything is logically where you would want it to be. Some books don't believe in that sort of thing. Yeah, your New World of Darkness. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes. So the logic in the lineup of this is basically like Legends. It's basically before you get in, it goes before, during, and after you encounter the creature. So you've got lore, you have the encounters, you got some signs, you got some behaviors. You encounter the creature if it can talk and converse. It's got some names. You've got your combat abilities. You have your all that is detailed. You have your bloodied effect, bloody condition, whether it gets more powerful or less powerful. You have what it's going to do in combat, and then hey, if it starts to lose, what happens? Like for examples, if this is bloody. So let's go to the owlbear. MNO. So let's page on down, or do I want to just? There's a minotaurs. You got to have some of all that kind of stuff. Mummies and mummy lords. Come on, oozes. Oh, mm-mm. Okay, oozes. Gelatinous cube. Oh, yay! Artiogs. Gotta love ourselves some Artiogs. So here we have the owlbear. All this information. It's a pretty cool picture of the owlbear, to be honest with you. Legends and lore, blah blah blah, and then owlbear variant. Here we have an owlbear recluse. Let's focus in on this. Yeah, let's do this. Eh. The most ill-tempered and territorial owlbears live and hunt alone rather than with others of their kind. Despite the fact that most owlbears live in family groups, owlbear recluses are more frequently encountered since they're aggressive enough to attack armed groups. The owlbear recluse is an elite monster equivalent to 2 CR3 monsters. There is a elite monsters in level up A5E, which I guess I should have. Well, we can do that on a different time, is the equivalent of 2 monsters. So it's basically take 2 monsters, double it, but make it one creature. So, for example, it of course it is 2 CR3 monsters, so it has 119 hit points, bloodied at 59, has the following additional bonus actions, which it uses only while bloodied. So when it's at half its abilities, it has elite recovery, flapping fury, owlbear hug, and peck. So the elite recovery, the owlbear, ends one negative effect currently affecting it. It can use this bonus action as long as it has at least one hit point, even while unconscious or incapacitated. So a negative effect could be charm, paralysis, stunning effect, something like that. Even poison effects and things like that. Flapping fury. If it's not grappling a creature, the owlbear jumps up to half its speed without provoking opportunity attacks and then makes a claws attack with advantage. Or owlbear hug. The owlbear attacks a medium or smaller creature with its claws. On a hit, the target is grappled. Escape DC 14. Until this grapple ends, the target is restrained. The owlbear can grapple one creature at a time. And mind you, the grapple could be like it pins it to the ground using its claws, or like throws it up against a tree or something like that. And lastly, peck. The owlbear makes two beak attacks against a creature it is grappling. Now, um, the issue with being an elite monster is so that you can double up the power of the monster. And they kind of hint that you can even double up the attacks. So if you want to make a monster really, really punch above its level, you can double it up. So yeah, elite monsters in A5E. Um, Yeah, an elite monster. Yes, an elite owlbear can unpetrify itself. Awesome. And now, and mind you, you're the narrator, so you can decide what it can do anytime. So an elite owlbear might be like, for example, maybe your elite owlbear is like half fey. So, and they exist like kind of half in the earthly plane, half fey world. So slipping in and out of like uh, very arcane things like being grappled or being petrified or charmed might be a normality for it. And of course, you could describe it differently as well. Like an owlbear recluse might have tropical colored feathers on its body and around its face rather than being an owl. Maybe it's far more cardinal or blue jay or something like that. Yeah, the Enki says, so this owlbear can royally mess up that Medusa we were just talking about. Well, either that or maybe the owlbear is a friend. Maybe the Medusa and um, raised it from a pup and it is unaffected or can shrug off an accidental petrification, right? Maybe they are allied, or maybe the Medusa is like, I can fight off every enemy except for these damn owlbears, and maybe that's a reason why owlbears exist in the world, even though they can be taken out. It's like, nope, they can shrug off that stuff anytime they want to. Right? There's plenty of stories involved in that. So, yeah. Um, let's see, what's something. Oh, we're getting to the end here. We're getting to the end. So anyway, guys, it's Tuesday, so next Tuesday maybe we'll do this again. We'll take a look at some other features in the Monstrous Menagerie. There's another big feature. Let's see if I can page to it very quickly here. Um, let's see. There is what page is it on? Mm, 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 mm. Oh, it's at the very end. Okay, maybe it is at the very end. Let's see if I could find it. Legends and lore. Fleet monsters, stat blocks, speeds. Is it in this book? Senses talks about all their abilities, limited use abilities, variants, templates. No. Okay, one more thing. Sorry. Let's get to the end here. There we go. I got a page back up. Ability. Oh, okay. Here we go. Um, mm, 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 mm. There we are. Monsters, elite monsters, and categorizations. So you can look up the monsters according to their challenge ratings. So they're listed under challenge ratings. So you can just very quickly page through at the back of the book, um, just so you don't have to keep paging one after another. Um, we also have spell effects, so stat blocks by challenge rating, spell effects, things such as short-term and long-term mental effects that can be caused by some of the monsters. Again, fatigue and strife is pretty horrible. Also have all the conditions: incapacitated, invisible, confused, poisoned, prone, new one, rattled, and bloodied, that kind of thing. And then it goes into designing at the very end of the book, designing a lot of your encounters and using legendary monsters and the encounter math. So if you can take your character levels and use the math, and then that kind of thing. How many people are involved? What level they are? So if you have a ninth level character level, ninth level, and you have three of them, it's an easy battle for three adventurers. And then you have here, there's math ruler four. I have to go through more of it because we're getting to the end here. Uh, Combat encounters, blah 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 blah. So yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. Let me get back to what you guys have to say to take this out. Um, mm, mm, mm. All right, guys. We, I do. There is a long playlist of level up A5E. It's gotten a lot of attention, so this is why I'm doing it on Tuesdays. Sorry about that. And King says we're getting so much extra content from these books. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, again, they were designed from the ground up. There was also designed through survey results and what people wanted, and they said, "Hey, let's double down on it." So the design team went in and they asked a bunch of us to come up with different types of lore and to kind of rethink what the monsters are like to give them a little bit more personality, like you saw in the Medusa entry, where it's not just turn the corner, I'm going to turn you to stone, but it could be someone that is cursed or an ally or an artist or an eccentric or anything of those kind of things. So yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you for letting me um, explore this as well. There are plenty of people who are looking into this as an aside to fifth edition. If you don't want to buy anything from WotC, I'm still interested in what's going on with Tales of the Valiant / Black Flag. We have MCDM coming out with theirs, and so many other variations of it. So take a look at those. But please, down in the doobly doo, go to Level Up, to the Level Up website to check it out. Join the Discord server. Or use the ENWorld forums to find out what they're talking about over there. And of course, you can go to A5E.tools for the digital version of these creatures. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I can. Let's see if I can do this here. Oops. Let's go to the studio. Can I? Will it let me switch over? Not so much. Thank you says we're getting so much extra content from the stream. Thank you for showing us this. Oh yeah, yeah. Page throughs, deep dives, all that kind of stuff. I'm into it. And honestly, part of me is learning a little bit as I go along, right? I don't have my memory's getting older. I'm a person of a certain age, so. But yeah, guys, the End King and everybody else, a dead man who's eternally present and helpful. I love it. Thank you guys so much, Mike, Marin, M Squared. Love for you guys to be here. Everybody else out there, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I go live Monday through Friday, or at least try to, and you can take part in the show and be a co-host as well. So thank you very much. You can join the Discord server that's down in the doobly doo to socialize and have some para-friendly relationships with other people far smarter than I am. So please do that as well. Guys, thank you so much. I've got to get to work. You guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Peace out.